welcome back to Meet the Authors with your host, Philip Levin. So glad you could stay tuned because we have a great author for our final segment for tonight's episode. Melissa Carrigee with her children's book, this beautiful book called Dream of Dragons. A Dream of Dragons with some lovely illustrations, and it's full of little poetry books about poems about a boy's dreams and what he becomes. So hi Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could come and tell me what it's like. This is your first book, I hear, huh?
It is my first book. It has been a long time. I wrote it back in 1997, I believe.
1990, took you 20 years to get this book out. Huh? It is a long process. Tell me a little bit about that.
The process, well, how I started writing it was I was taking an illustration class at college, and I can't draw stick people, but I knew I could write poetry. And so the project was to write and illustrate a children's book. So I traced a bunch of pictures off of other people's children's book, and then I wrote my own book. And it was directed to my 2-year-old son at the time.
And how old is he now?
He is now 21.
Wow.
So it might have been 96. Or I might have got my years mixed up, but he's now 21 years old.
That's amazing. Wow. And does he like your book now?
He loves it.
Yeah, I bet he does.
He's proud.
He's proud.
He's proud. He's in the Air Force too. So.
Oh, that is great. And you've been a Southern girl all your life, you're telling me.
All my life. I'm a Southern mutt.
Yeah. And how did you end up here?
I lived here in Gulfport, Mississippi, years and years and years, and we moved to Florida. I was born in Tennessee. We've lived in North Carolina, and I moved back to Biloxi when I got a job with the Sun Herald.
Okay. Tell me about the process of getting a children's book published. I know they're really hard to publish.
It's very hard to publish, and I have to give props to the illustrator because he did such a wonderful job, and that is half of the book. You could say that it's all your writing, but you know the kids are just looking at the pictures. So this is my original project I brought to show.
Show us your project.
And that's what it looks like. This is what it looked like. And it's just a little boy, because I didn't want to draw him all the time. I just drew one little boy. And it's basically dream bubbles, and here you see that I wrote my little poem, and then this is the page that I traced the picture and colored it. So this is how it started, and it just kept germinating in my head and in my head, and it ended up looking like this.
You know, it's so wonderful. I've had a lot of the authors and so many people I've talked to, and they say, I have this book, I really want to write, and they just, you have to have, like you have, that determination to just keep at it until you get it done, and it's a wonderful thing.
Well, the one trick is the BIC, and it's button chair. And you have to sit down every day and write. It's your job.
I like that.
No
BIC.
hobby, no specialty. It is your job, and that's what you do. You write every day.
Okay, and you're working on a second one now, huh?
I am. I'm working on a second book of poetry. I love poetry. That was my first love as a child. That's what got me started. I recently found a quote from Virginia Woolf. Says most of anonymous in history is women. And I remember that reading a book of poetry with my grandmother, and my favorite book poetry was There Wasn't a Woman Who Swallowed a Fly. And I remember reading the author's name was anonymous. And I always thought, man, that person can write. And I was like, I want to be anonymous. And my grandmother's like, no, that's not quite what that means. But that's what started my love. And as a teenager, I wrote poetry with all the teenage angst and anger and all that stuff. And it just came out as just a love of reading, a love of poetry, a love of words.
Read us a little bit from your book.
Okay. I'll read, sorry, I'm getting old. I will read. What I used to want to be when I was a child was a paleontologist. So I will read the paleontologist page. But this is the illustrations. It's super, I love the illustrator, Clinton Bowers. And it is, I dream I am a paleontologist digging around in the ground. I found some old bones inside these old stones. Hey, look what I just found. Now, I have to say this. I had a woman come up to me at the Mississippi Book Fair and say, a 4-year-old is not going to know what a paleontologist is. And I beg to differ, because plenty of little 4-year-olds know exactly what a paleontologist is, and if they read and if you show them, they'll know. Expect more and you get more.
And this is, you wrote it for your son, and
Yes.
this is really sort of a boy book. They're all, I mean, not that I want to be sexist, but
I tried to, I understood that, but I tried to make the jobs like gender neutral as much as I could. There's a veterinarian, there's an astronaut, there's a chef, there's a pirate. I mean, they are kind of geared towards boys. And I do have one that I wanted to do. I dream of castles, if this one was good. I believe in the illustrations so much that I actually made a page in the back. It's a picture find. And the illustrations are so wonderful that I wanted the children to go back and look for these pictures because the illustrator just hid so many gems inside the pictures.
Tell us tell the audience where you can get your book.
Right now, it is at Triplet Drugs in Gulfport, and it is at Bay Books in Bay St. Louis, and it's on Amazon. You also can get it from me on melissacarrigee.net, which I usually can give it to you a little bit cheaper and autographed with a free bookmark.
Thanks for coming, Melissa. We're so glad to have you. Well, thank you for tuning in for this episode of Meet the Authors. Go to my website, drstreams.com. You can pick up any of my books or any of our guests' books. All the guests have been invited to put their books on my website and get them directly from there.